Coach Clean Energy here. I've got a couple questions for everybody, so if you can help me out here. When this is a TED Talk, and I'm sure it will be a TED Talk one day, I'm thinking that I need a better title than situational awareness and climate change, because that is just going to put everyone to sleep, except my engineers in the room, which already are on board. So here's the premise. Change is hard. When we talk about things that don't necessarily affect us, change is almost impossible. If you were living in California right now where there's a wildfire, or if you're living in Colorado or New Mexico where the rivers are running dry, you would be a more receptive audience. And how it comes into situational awareness is because in my region of America, I'm in Northeast New York State right now, we have a lot of water. We get a lot of water north to south from Canada. We've got Great Lakes. In fact, if we do not do something about climate change, my house will be at the bottom of a new ocean by 2050. So I'd like there to be some progress here. So what I've done, what my family has done, we have put 2 sets of solar panels on our roof, and that charges not only our home use, but it also charges our 2 hybrid cars. So I'm pretty good there. But I had an ethical issue this week at the gym. I don't know if you can relate. I don't know if you drive an SUV with 1 or 2 people and pretty much empty all the time, or you are doing something else carbon not neutral to help the environment because you don't either see the ravages that it's doing currently, or you may be getting your news from an alternative source. That's part of this too. So I am usually very good, very sensitive. I turn off the water after I get the toothbrush wet, and I turn off the shower while I shampoo, things like that. Great. Usually. But I have a confession. I went to the gym this week, and one of the other members told me that 1 out of the 8 showers had its flow restrictor removed. So in layman's terms, 1 shower kicked butt and the other 7 showers drizzled on you. And I had to try it. I went into the one that had the higher pressure, and I loved it. I got to be honest with you. And so I was thinking about it, and I'm going, why would if I was living in California, if I was living in Colorado, would I be more situationally aware that I would not have done that? And that's the question we need to ask each other going forward. Are we situationally aware enough that our actions collectively are contributing to climate change? And the answer for most of us, if we actually look at it realistically, is yes. So, what are we going to do? First of all, you're going to hopefully have watched this and give me a better title for this. I need to expand it, of course, to 18 minutes to be a proper TED Talk. And I'm sure that I can show pictures of, Hoover Dam running dry, and, all the people. At some point, we are going to have to make some hard choices. One of the hard choices in California, for example, farmers have the right of way to water resources before the general population, because at one point California was mostly farmland. But as the population grew and grew and grew and grew, it's a competing resource, and there's not enough clean water to go around. So California, one of their huge crops is almonds. and it takes 5 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of almonds. And I like almonds. You might like almonds as well. But is that the best possible use of that water right now? If it's possible to ship, the Mississippi has plenty of water right now. There are always winners and losers with climate change. When you go up to Alaska and you see that the glaciers are 90% melted, all the water from that ice that's been there for hundreds of years goes into the ocean there. Same thing in Greenland. Greenland might be completely submerged in 20, 30 years. There are other places like that. So there are winners and losers. To ship the excess water from Mississippi to the Colorado would cost an unbelievable number right now. We have developed a wind turbine that can do it for 1/10 the cost. So that may be one of the solutions we're looking at. And I think it's important to realize that there's some really amazing engineers out here doing amazing, incredible work, trying to help everybody else. But then we are going to be back to the change and implementation phase. And what is it going to take for you to get out of that SUV? And here's one of the things that I'm looking at. Maybe we have an SUV for a community, for your homeowners association, something like that. And you can reserve it on the app when you are, going to run a picnic for 500 people, when you're going to, take your daughter to college, something like that, so that you can share that resource instead of, using all that gasoline all day, every day. I have a Chevrolet Silverado that I use infrequently, but it sure comes in handy. But about 10 years ago, I started asking the neighbors, hey, do you want to share my truck? And people are starting to come up with ride share, car share, truck share apps. And maybe that is, we can have fractional investments of that sort to help us be a little bit greener. Are you listening to people who go, there's range anxiety, we won't be able to charge all the electric cars? Our wind turbine, we have a model that goes on the corner of your roof. Not only will give you all the power for your house, we'll charge your 2 electric cars and your batteries in the garage so that you have plenty of power. So people are thinking about your concerns. And there are also people competing. There are people who make millions of dollars, billions of dollars selling coal, selling natural gas, selling gasoline, who can take a kernel of truth, such as our infrastructure cannot charge all these electric cars, and plant that into your subconscious so that you say, oh, this might not work, why should I do it? And that is an impediment to change. So we need to start getting a little bit more realistic when we hear people telling us untruths and half-truths before we believe them as whole cloth. And that's going to be a challenge because we've all been painted into little corners by social media, by running with the same crowds instead of doing some design work where we start talking to artists and we start talking to engineers and we start talking to copywriters and we bounce ideas off each other and teach each other facts instead of believing myths. There's a lot going on here. I just wanted to take a minute, say hi to everybody, and practice my TED Talk. I'm Clean Energy Ron. I help engineers get their products to market. I help consumers understand difficult topics a little bit easier. Have a great day, everybody. Think about things.